From the smoke, the riffs, and the shadows, this is Cries from the Underworld, and I, Doomsday Jesus, rides on my own tonight. Marc, welcome to Cries from the Underworld.
Thank you. It's great to see you.
Yeah, really great to have you. A huge honor. And starting with a small question, the upcoming album, your number 6,
Yes.
called 6.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. It feels when I listen to it, an album that demands time rather than instant gratification. And before we dive deep into the album, when you listen back to this record now, what emotions do you feel?
Oh, wow. So, this, what I thought would be, usually how we do every album, I write lyrics and then I don't like them. So, a week before I rewrite everything. For 2 years, I lived in this apartment. It was like maybe a step above a seedy hunting camp, to be honest with you. And so I was going through not a wonderful time, shall we say. So I would literally, I kept a notebook right by my bed. And when I'd start to feel like I was losing my shit or going a little haywire, I would write down those feelings, right? So I ended up having like 50 pages. So it's stuff that, emotionally pretty much kicked the living shit out of me. So it was the best therapy I've ever had. But, during that time, yeah, there was a pretty infinite sadness. I was miserable. I didn't know which way was up, to be honest with you. So when, so when we started crafting the music and everything, I started looking at this notebook again and being like, this would be a great verse, or man, I could use this as a chorus, or wow, this could actually go to a bridge. So after all the music was taken care of, I literally picked this thing out and pieced everything together. And so the first time I sang this was when we got in the studio. No one had heard any lyrics. So, when I first sang it, it was a little rough, to be honest with you. Not in like rough to singer, that just emotionally, it kind of hit the shit out of me. Doing a rough vocal just so everyone could play along, right? Drums, things of that nature. And then once I, listened to that, it gave me really the courage to go after this album. So, lyrically, it's the most honest, emotional album I've ever written in any band or anything I've ever done before. So it was much needed emotionally. If not, I probably would be in a different mindset, right? A different place. It was either doing this, writing and doing that, or like crushing like a 12-pack every night. And having done the one before, I was like, well, if I keep, living like this and doing, it's not going to be good for anyone. So I just started to write instead of getting pissed and things, like that. And so emotionally, it's incredibly deeply felt, and I'm incredibly happy I did it. For the shit, going through and to be able to tell this story, I'm really happy, that I had the balls to do it.
Yeah, it's a heavy thing to do to write about the feelings you had in life. And did you think that the album comes naturally to you when you find the bridge, the chorus, and the verse?
Yeah. It did. Yeah, and that's literally just from me, starting to think like, just the way I write in generally tends to be a touch lyrically, no matter what I do. If I'm sending an email, right? If I'm, even at work. So when, I decided to to reread the stuff that I had written down, that's when I was like, oh, wow, I'm not rewriting anything. that, I'm going to be true to myself, and I'm literally going to, use what I have already taken care of on paper and just kind of throw everything else, to the fucking wind and be like, I got to do this. So once I had it and the music was all taken care of, yeah, I knew exactly. I was like, oh, this is going to work here. This will work here. And by doing that, it really freed my mind to when I got into the studio to try a lot of different, vocal harmonies, calls and response, layering. So yeah, by kind of wearing my heart on my sleeve for a long time, I was able to grab that shit and like just put it in and just be like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I have to do it to the best of my capabilities. I don't want to sell myself short or the other guys in the band or label or anything like that. So yeah, once, I started reading what, at times I was like, Jesus Christ. I'm really happy that, I was able to take those feelings and sing about that.
Yeah. And what was the first reaction from the other bandmates?
They're listening and it was just like, I can't see them, you know what I mean? So, it was quiet. And then they're like, and it literally went from there. I had the lyrics all set. I knew what I was going to double. I knew what I was going to layer. There's still that 10% where shit I just tried that really worked. But most of it was literally me just being like, call and response this part, do this response. And, Doug, after listening, it's like, man, some of that stuff's really, really sad. I think because, he and Joe, obviously, and Seth had seen, what I've been going through, had seen me probably at some of the most miserable moments, of my life. So I think, when they finally heard the vocals, they got it, and they just would go for it. You know what I mean? They were like, fucking, all right, Gaff, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? So it came from a place of taking that sadness and turning it into something positive, and then me being able to sing about it and knowing those guys are going to be like, they either like it or not. That's one thing about us. If we're not feeling something, they'll be like, I didn't like that. But this was a case, where they, and Benny, the same thing. Benny Grotto, who engineered, produced, and mixed the album, we're just like, yeah, okay, I get it. And having that kind of positivity behind you led me to, I think, to try things I have not tried before, especially vocally, especially hitting notes, not being afraid, to do certain doubling, in a higher range, a lower range, and then definitely different harmonies that I've never tried to do. So because I had their backing, and everyone's, and because, it was so heartfelt to me, it was kind of a win-win. But I'm always, very, very anxious. What do they think, right? Do they dig it? Because if not, you don't want to do that. You know what I mean? That'd be fucking terrible. Imagine like you're playing these songs, they're like, this sucks. So, having their blessing was amazing.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
More than I can say.
Yeah. And when did you first start to write the thing you write?
So when did I first start coming up just with the pad to the paper? So a few years ago, when I first had to move, and started living by myself, that's when I just was in such a shitty. I fucking hated where I was living. There was other stuff going on. Obviously, there was stuff in my life that was grounding me, but I had to find an outlet just for, unfortunately, the millions of conversations that were going on in my mind. So that's when I was just like, instead of just crushing beers and everything, I just started writing. And Again, never did I think any of this shit would ever be something anyone would hear. But, you know, I think, you know, I finally got the confidence to just believe in what I've written and believe, you know, that the shit that I went through, and to not sing about it, I felt like I was a bullshitter. So yeah, 2 years ago I just started, and it's probably the smartest thing I've ever done for my own mind and well-being and kind of existence. So yeah, and then and again, like once all the music was crafted, it was literally it was one of the quickest things I've ever done was take this, take this, take that. It was, I don't know, maybe in a fucking day and a half, to be honest with you. All done. Yeah. Just because it was so heartfelt. And I knew, as I said, like I'd put like a V by it. You know, I put a C chorus or a B for a bridge. And you know, the music I was listening to kind of lend really, you know, to kind of let me go after not only, you know, these lyrics, but how I wanted to, you know, to present them, you know, in the studio and on record.
And looking back to what you have created now, do you sometimes found yourself returning to some emotions?
Yeah, not as heavy as you know. But yeah, there's stuff I'll hear and be like, "You motherfucker," you know. There's stuff, yeah, because it still stings, to be honest with you. But it's not a place of complete sadness. And now it's more like, okay, you're on your feet. You know, you are able to get through this fucking awful time, and like it or not, people are going to hear it. You know, but again, that was you know, I know people that, you know, go through, you know, I've gone through stuff. Obviously, some people go through things. So in my mind, I was like, I'm not the only guy who's ever felt this. You know, I'm not the only human who's been this fucking depressed, you know, just about life in general. So when I was singing, you know, obviously it was for my own mental health, but you know, in the back of my mind too, I was like, man, you know, I have buddies that have gone through, you know, some of the things, and I met, you know, other musicians that have gone through this. So my thought was, just get it out there. If this could even like help one person to know, like, hey, you know, other people have gone through this, then hopefully I've done my job. But yeah, you know, when I was first writing this, yeah, I was literally out of my mind. And now, you know, listening to this, it's a place I don't ever want to go back to, shall we say.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I think you're pointing out a really important topic, speaking about mental health, because it's better to speak about it than to be quiet and to fade away. Yeah.
Because unfortunately, you know, I've gone through that too, where you just all of a sudden you become so quiet, and people are like, "Are you all right? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?" "Oh, I'm fine," you know. And if someone knows you well enough, they know good and goddamn well that you're not. So I just had to kind of come to the conclusion, like, I'm having a really hard time. So I could either, you know, pretend I'm the toughest dude mentally in the world, or I could just be like, fuck it. You know, I'm going to write about this. I'm going to sing about it. Obviously, I knew I'd have to discuss it. So I took everything just very graceful. I was like, here we go. And I knew, like, when I was singing this shit, it had to, you know, I had to be powerful. It had to come across in a way that when people heard it, they could, you know, the music is what first hit, right? And the sound of the voice. But I wanted them, you know, to be able to feel, you know, what lyrically and what the music was kind of singing to them and playing to them. So hopefully I did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you 100%. I think you're pointing out what I hear when I have listened to the album many times, and I think it's. I love all the things you have done, but this is far better in 100% positive way. And I really happy that you seems to be on a better place, and I really happy that you put away the perfect mask and talked about things that troubled in your life and come out in what I seem to be a better place.
Yeah. It's like living in a sardine can. Yeah. to hey, I'm in, I could breathe, right? I could put on my pants without hitting my head, shall we say. So I'm a much happier human being, shall we say. And I feel better and to go through certain things, it sucks, but finding, that, light at the end, or whatever the fuck we want to say, when it happens, it clicks and it. And so I'm just, happy I was able to kind of tell my story, because it's not just my, I mean, you could be, a fucking kid, you could be whoever, and you're going to go through this. So again, it's just, I wanted something emotionally honest.
Yeah. It's like how it was for me for many years, and I discovered Neurosis, Silver and Blood. That record saved my life. So maybe this album saved another person's life, and that's really great.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helped me. It put me on the straight and narrow, thank God, because my trajectory was not in a one that was positive, shall we say.
No. Was there any song on 6 that surprised you emotionally where you suddenly realized, wow, I didn't know I needed to say this?
Yeah, They Might Know Karate, Corner Lariat, man, the first Midnight Express, pretty much there's parts in 8 songs that really kind of punched me in the throat. But yeah, the ending of They Didn't Know Karate, that was, man, it's almost like a primal scream, but not, when I was doing that in the studio, I had to let it out. And that was just free. Like I couldn't, I don't know what the fuck I was gonna. That was just closing my eyes, putting down my notebook, and just going for it. And that's one of those ones who Doug was like, "Gee, man, he's like, Jesus Christ," So yeah, it's just, until I sang them, you're not really sure because, excuse me, it's you could do it, you could sing it to a fucking your phone or whatever, right? But it's when you have, a wall of guitars, you have Joe's bass coming through, you have the delicious pocket that Seth laid down. That's when really emotionally, with the lyrics and such, it gave me the freedom to just, go for it, insert, with outros and that sort of thing. And, again, I'm just really happy that, people are enjoying it. But yeah, that was the song where I was just like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like when that was done, I was like, that fucker's done. I was like, that is done. And we just played that tune a couple weeks ago live at a festival. And man, talk about a fucking in front of people. Yeah, I got, most of the time I'm playing, I have my eyes closed anyway. But, being in the studio and such, and then when you sing that shit live, it's a whole different monster. So it just felt good just to let it out and just, open your eyes and see just people because for me, it's almost, I get like, it's, you know, I'm heavy into meditation and such. So for me, those parts, you know, it's you know, I just kind of let it take over, and where I'm going to go is where I'm going to go. You know, so it's not, it's almost trance-like for me. You know, just with the chords and such. And that's how I view a lot of music. So it was nice to be able for me to play something where I could kind of feel like the way I do when the first time I heard Dope Smoker, you know, or like Please Call Home by the Allman Brothers. So that, you know, it was a wake-up call to be like, okay, I finally felt like I was a decent musician, a decent vocalist, you know, after this, which, you know, again, being critical kind of sucks, but, you know, I don't think, if I wasn't so critical of myself, I don't think I would have been able to sing or to get this stuff out. So, yeah, it just it hits a different place when I'm singing this stuff live. There's other albums, like unfortunately, you know, Equilibrium, my dad had just passed away fucking 3 weeks before we're going to do that, and you know what I mean? But this was a whole different, you know, headspace, whole different thing, because you know, I had, you know, I lived a great life with him, right? But me, there's a lot more living I have to do. So when I was kind of facing all the internal, you know, mishaps in my life, right, stuff going on, I was like, okay, you know, am I even going to play music anymore? Am I even going to be worth, you know, a shit to anyone? So I'm happy that people are, you know, are enjoying this album. I'm happy that, you know, the guys in the band like it, right? I'm happy that the people at the label like it. So, you know, all I could do is just try and do, you know, my best. But knowing, you know, what everyone, you know, goes through, I just knew like I had to, like, say if I was here, I had to like really, really move it up. So yeah, I'm actually happy. Like I said, finally, I don't mind hearing my voice or my guitar playing, which before I'd be like, you fucking stink. So yeah, you know, I'm glad it's happening now. You know, other than me being like, what the fuck? No, you know. So yeah, you know, it was, you know, emotionally, you know, I think I've grown a ton, and being able to sing about this stuff, it put me in a place where I know it's all right to be sad, but that can't be my whole existence, right? I can't be fucking depressed for 2 years, right? I mean, because I can't want to, you know, someone, you know, say something to me and I want to like punch you in the face. It's such a miserable way to go through life, and it's so not who I am. So music for me, you know, it's the universal elixir, right? It's what gets me up in the morning. It's what I listen, you know, before I go to bed, I'm listening to tunes. When I wake up, you know, when I get in the car, it's just, for me, music is the most, you know, besides my kids and such, music is the most gratifying and grounder in my life.
Yeah, in mine too. And for you, music are therapy, and for me also. But I pay for my therapy, and you get sold copies of your upcoming album. So the therapy is paid for you.
It is, yeah. I have a good health plan in my mind, right?
That's great.
My mind is universal health care.
Yeah, but do you ever feel vulnerable releasing such personal material into a world that often consumes music very quickly?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm sure there'll be people that are like, this guy's a fucking pussy. Okay, fine. You know what I mean? Like, you know, at this age and what we've been able to do, like, I'm the first guy, you know, that if you don't like it, fine. Like, I'm always in awe of people that don't like stuff, and then they try to bring other people down. Like, I've never one of those dudes who's been like, I listen to this album, it sucks, I'm gonna tell everyone why I think it fucking sucks. Like, if you're that miserable of a person, or if you think like your opinion matters that much, then it doesn't matter what I say, what I do. Doesn't matter. Like, Christ could come down, right? Whoever, and who are I mean, and people are just be like, oh, this sucks. So for me, it's just way easier to be nice. Being a fucking prick takes a lot of work. It's exhausting. So yeah, there is that vulnerability, but I don't really care anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't like it, don't listen to it. Like, again, no one's putting a fucking, no one's strapping someone down, putting and being like, if you're that much of a miserable human being where your whole gig is you want to fuck with people or just shit on everything, you're not going to like anything. And you certainly don't like yourself. So I'd rather be vulnerable than be some fucking prick, you know what I mean? Who, for reasons unbeknownst to anyone, is just out to like, oh, this stinks, or just make fun, or that's up to them. But if vulnerability, if someone says they're not vulnerable, you're lying. You know what I mean? And again, if I didn't get the stuff out, I don't know where I'd be right now. Let's put it like that. So I was glad I was able to be, incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah. And as I said before, this is album number 6, and yet Gozu still sounds very hungry when I listen to it. And what keeps the fire alive when it comes to be creative after all these years?
You know what? We really like playing with each other. We're a band, but we're also amazing friends. We can argue and be mad at each other. The next day, you're like, okay, are you good? Yeah, I'm good. But we know, right, when the four of us get in a room, something good is going to happen. I mean, there's not just one of us who is the key member. You know what I mean? When other bands, like, like that guy's is the kingpin, right? With us, if the four people aren't together, this shit's not going to happen. So we understand that. And we still have a lot of fun. You know what I mean? Like, I see bands, they're not having fun. I don't know how the fuck you would do that. Like, it's definitely not for the money. You know what I mean? Like, if I was for money, I should be a fucking accountant. But for us, we still like going on tour. We still love hanging out with each other. We still like going to, see shows and stuff together. We love talking about music. We like chatting about albums, things like that. And we always want, the next album to kick the shit out of the one we did before. Mm-hmm. So for us, it's one of those things when we get together and write, it's fun. That's not to say there are times where you're like, I fucking hate this chorus or things like that. But we're able to work through that. And, there's the means is always way bigger than an individual. So, and that's why I think this album hits the way it does, because this album, we're all like, okay, what if we put this, can we do this as the chorus instead? Oh shit, that works. Or, well, we're going to go that outro, instead of, just going bang, 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 can we go da, 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 that, because again, we care so much about the music. So we constantly want it to flow. And, we also want people to enjoy it, you know what I mean? You don't want to put something on and be like, it's fucking, I hope only one person likes it. I'm so artistic and bullshit. So, we, while we still really enjoy, hopping in a van and going to the studio and playing, we're going to keep doing it. But I think, because we really wanted this album to make a statement, I personally think it's way better than anything we've ever done.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that came to my mind when you spoke about being friendly, but still arguing about things.
Yeah.
What are you arguing about when it
Sure.
comes to
Yeah. So, it could literally be like, why the fuck would we, I remember they did no karate. We were like, why are we, starting off with this and going to this and going to this? And then the next rehearsal, we came back, we were like, what if we do this, this, and this? And it just clicked. Oh, fucking great. So instead of, people be like, this, I don't want to play this. So I love that. I mean, that is one of my favorite ever in the whole Gozu catalog. So, it's really, it's not being like, well, fuck you if we don't do this or this. It's really, okay, let's think about it. How can we make this flow so everyone, really digs it? And once that happens, then it really, kind of writes itself. If we didn't give a shit about the music, then we wouldn't argue, we wouldn't care. But because you have four guys with we're four incredibly different guys in what we listen to and how we act, what we watch, even like the way we speak. We're all from, like, Joe's from Chicago. I grew up in northern New York. Doug and Seth, they're both Boston guys. Where we went to schools are different, right? The sports we like, all that stuff. But the glue is, music, taking all those influences, taking all the shit that's happened, and allowing each other to grow, as a band and as a human being. When, you kind of look at it like that, you're like, okay, if this is going to benefit the song, let's do it. It's not just someone being, I'm going to take my ball and go home, right? So it's being able to have those chats, even though at times it's not fun, but it's being able to, okay, what's the best thing for the tune? And when that happens, like I said, you're like, here we go. Now I know what it's supposed to sound like. And then, it gives it that oomph, that it really needed. And because also it's not just one person, right? It's a team of four dudes really coming up with the end, sound that you hear, which I think is great. It's not one of those things where it's just one person playing all the instruments, right? Or doing all this or that. This is four guys who, if the four dudes were not in a room together, you would not be hearing, the final, product that you hear.
Yeah. Was there anything on Six that you could done on previous albums?
I think guitar playing wise for me, there was I just felt way more comfortable. And then some of the stuff's a motherfucker to play and sing, So I think that's just, by me practicing more, just really kind of getting more in tune with the songs, and me, actually trusting myself as a guitar player. I've always thought I'm a singer and I play guitar, but I was like, eh. So it just me just kind of really delving into the guitar, taking some lessons. Like Gina from Baroness gave me a few lessons, which were it made things click. I've been really lucky to have lessons from people that I absolutely adore as guitar players. So me kind of reaching out to them and then being like, oh yeah, let's do it. 'Cause that's hard for me, asking anyone kind of for anything. It's a bit difficult, and then being so gracious and being like, yeah, and me kind of being like, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? And then, for them kind of, that's when things clicked. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to play guitar, like I'm going to go all in. And, I think me personally was able, to play better on this. And, the songs, that I was writing, I was able, to come up in a different vein than I had before.
Yeah. Gozu always have the groove, and for me, 6 are feeling a lot heavier in some way, a lot darker, but also more melodic and very dynamic. Was sequencing important in making the album feel like a journey?
Yeah. So someone just asked me before, the sequence was simple. Like, there was the 4 of us, there was Benny, there was Ryan Williams, who mastered the album. Literally just be like, hey, I'm thinking of this. Doug, I'm thinking, Joe. And it was literally from song 1 to song 8, simple. Like, because in our mind, this was an album you had to listen to from start to finish. You know what I mean? So that's why Corinthian Leatherface and then Corvette Summer, I thought, was a delicious way to start and end the album.
Yeah.
Because, they're really nice book holders for all, the stuff that's in there. So, yeah, we would listen to it and be like, what do you think? What do you think? And we all came back almost with exactly identical how we thought song 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 should go.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So that was really easy. That was not a difficult. It was probably I'll be honest with you, the easiest sequencing we've ever done was on this album.
Yeah. And you didn't fight about the track order?
Not at all. No, which was great.
Yeah. But are there songs when you try to make it that you feel like, oh, is this a song that will make the record?
Yeah. So we always write a shit ton. Doug and I are constantly sending, shit. I'll record guitar on my phone, send it to him. He does the exact same thing. So the 8 that we had are the 8 that we all really loved. There were other songs, but yeah, they you know what I mean? For some reason or the other, we're just like, because, you want 8 really hard-hitting songs. You don't want to put a song on there just to fucking put on there. Because I know when I would listen to albums, I would love stuff and there'd be a bad song and be like, what the fuck? Like, this sucks. Like, I don't want to hear this shit. You know what I mean? Especially growing up, it's like, you're doing something. You don't want to go to the fucking, take the needle and skip, right? That's why, I remember buying Back in Black. Fuck, I think it was in 2nd grade, right? And being like, holy shit. Or when I would listen to Sgt. Pepper's, right? Or like, I remember listening to my parents' albums, like Crosby, Stills and Nash, the first album, and then listen to Deja Vu. And then, when I got like Live After Death, or, the Van Halen albums that all the older guys in my neighborhood would listen to, it was always side 1. You don't skip a goddamn thing. You either turn the album over or you flip the cassette to side 2. And I think that's one thing that's always stuck with me, is that if I get a goddamn album, there's 9 songs on it, I don't want to listen to just 3. You know what I mean? I want to listen to every song, and I want to enjoy every song. So, because I think all of us listen to so much different music, and we all came from that same thing of, you put on like Neil Young's Harvest. Holy shit, right? Every fucking song, especially if you listen on CD. There's no skipping. You know what I mean? When I listen to like Unknown Pleasures by, Joy Division, there's no skipping. When I'm listening to like Idlewild South by Elmer Brothers, or I remember, listening to, excuse me. I remember getting, all the Prince albums, but then I remember getting Around the World in a Day. And that's when it kind of clicked, because I was a little bit older. And I was just like, wow, this is how you go from song 1 till the end. And you're able, you can breathe better, right? You feel better. Some of those emotions, because you're not skipping tunes and things like that, you're allowing your mind, you're allowing everything just to, you're taking it all in. And that's why, you know, for us, there's a song we're not feeling, it's not going to get on there. And also, you don't want to have three guys living a tune and one guy doesn't want to play it, because that's going to come across when you play it live. So for us, yeah, we all have to really dig the songs, or, you know, one guy could fucking love it, but if the other three don't, it's not going to get on there. And sometimes that's just us trusting each other too. We're like, just fucking hold on. I'm going to play the whole tune. This is where it's going to, then you hear it, and then you're like, I get it now. So, you know, but again, that comes with just being friends and having, you know, a very deep respect, not only as each of us as players, but, you know, as people. So,
Yeah.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Yeah, right. Fucking.
Yeah. And I want to dig a little bit deeper into specific songs on Six. And pardon my pronunciation of the single, Banachek.
Banachek, yep.
Yeah. And for me, it's had an infectious monumentum to it, almost like classic heavy metal energy hidden inside the stoner rock vibe.
Right.
But what made the song click, and what was the reason you choose this as a single?
I just think it kind of had everything to throw at people off, you know, right off the bat. The tones are great. His guitar solo, I think, is spectacular in this. It's one of the best he's done. The drumming is so fucking kinetic, you know what I mean? The bass holds it together. It was one of those tunes. It was really, really easy to record. You know, guitars, drums, bass to it. It was easy to sing. And it just really is one of those tunes where it drives itself. And we thought that would be something, because again, we have songs like that, but I don't think that driving, you know, especially with the harmonies and such, and, you know, the guitar tones, that we all were just like, here we go. This is the first one. And there was no arguments about it. Like, yep, here we go. We knew when we recorded it, we're like, that's pretty fucking okay. You know what I mean? So we're like, okay, this will be, you know, number one. And then, you know, with Killer, you know, Khan, and with, you know, Corinthian Leatherface, the same thing. You know, we wanted 3 songs that were different and be like, okay, here's a taste, here's a taste, here's a taste. Now come and get it. So, yeah. And again, that was all pretty, really easy. Be like, okay, let's put this one out first. Let's do a second. All right, this will be the third one. And it was very, very easy, you know, coming up with that.
Yeah, I have played it on my DJ set on clubs here in Stockholm, and you know, when you put out a great song, you can see the reaction from people. They like,
right,
nodding, and sometimes, what the hell is this song? It's a classic stoner song with a heavy metal vibe, and it's really fun to see the reaction when playing it in front of others.
Yeah, I mean, that's what gets me off the most when we're playing live, is seeing people feeling it, seeing the head start to move, the midsection starts to feel it. For me, that's the fucking, there's no better thing than seeing that when you're playing. You see that, you just, here we go. Like, literally, it's like, it's on. So, I'm glad you dig that tune. Thank you.
Yeah. And one another that I really like to point out are Corner Lariat, because it had the feeling of vulnerability beneath the heaviness. And I wonder, what emotional space were you in while writing the song?
So that was the first, that in Midnight Express were the two that I wrote, you know, on guitar before I wrote anything. Man, Cornelia, I was fucking depressed. and I never, you know, boom, bang, never really have, you know, when I was, you know, in different bands, like, but never ever wrote something like that for Gozu. I mean, Doug wanted to put that out with just me singing and playing guitar. Because when I first recorded my phone, I sent that to him, and he was like, "Jesus Christ, man, those lyrics are incredibly sad." So and there are different lyrics than it actually were. I mean, it's much sadder now than the ones I had originally, because again, I went back. But yeah, I just I was in a space where I was listening to like a lot of at that time, Christ, like a lot of Joy Division. I was listening to like a lot of new wave and also like a bunch of Neil Young and things. And that's where my, shit that I really love that has influenced me, I think, just went right through my fingertips. And that chorus, I was listening to like a lot of Bonnie Raitt too, especially that tune like "I Can't Make You Love Me" and that sort of thing. And I think through osmosis, that kind of just touched me. And I remember like while I was writing that, Journey's like, "Who's Crying Now?" And I think that's one of the most amazing fucking choruses I've ever heard. And while I was literally strumming my guitar, that came on, and I think that kind of led me to vocally with the way I breathe during that chorus, with the way I'm kind of setting things up. I think that again, I was listening to really sad shit, but that one came just literally. I had my fucking my phone, and I just had tunes that would just pop up, and so that one is probably, in terms of that, hits me pretty hard. That one takes me to where I was, like sitting in that fucking apartment playing guitar, trying not to like just have the waterworks, literally nothing even going on. You're just that fucking depressed. So for me, I think that comes through definitely musically, how I played those tunes, and I knew in that song I wanted to have an outlet for Doug to be able to just lay some shit down. And as I said, because of listening to the Allman Brothers and Skinner, and I was listening to a shit ton of Marshall Tucker too during that time. So, when I think like that, because for me, I love like a 20-minute tune. I love a 15, 10-minute. And again, that's just growing up, listen to Grateful Dead and that sort of thing. So I knew I wanted, like, I always want to write a song that's kind of a vehicle for Doug to shine and really, push his ass to. So I knew that with, the chord structure and that sort of thing, because it's all pretty much minor. I wanted to kind of shine through, and then for him to be able to dance on top of that, with his fingers. But yeah, man, I hear that one in Midnight Express, and it does take me to a darker place, but I'm able to fucking find the goodness in that instead of just being like, okay, if you need me, I'm going to be underneath my desk, what I mean? Eating pork chops, listen to fucking Sid Barrett, what I'm saying? So for me, that one's a tough one, but again, I'm really happy, that I went through it, and I'm really happy that the other three guys enjoyed it enough to be like, okay, what do we want to do with this? So, I thank them all the time.
Yeah. And next song is They Did Know Karate. The title alone begs for a story. Where on earth did know karate come from?
So we have a song on Equilibrium saying they probably know karate. Christ almighty. So the story with that, so we recorded Equilibrium at Dean Baltalonis' studio in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So it was a Saturday, we were done, and we wanted to go have like a couple beers. Literally, the water's like right down the street. So these 10 women roll in, dressed to the, they were dressed, shall we say, they were dressed, and fuck bopping around, and these two fucking dudes come in with them.
Mm.
And we're all pretty good sized guys, right? And I don't know, these guys were like these tiny dudes with their fucking collars popped and all this shit. And Doug was like, yeah, they probably know karate. It's it's so fucking. So I was like, you know what, man? We really need to have a song title. They did know karate. And so it just happened to fall on that tune. So, so yeah, it was because we had the song, They Probably Know Karate. So we're like, you know what? Fuck it. They did know karate. So we're like, okay, we're going to. So literally that's how that name came about.
A great story.
Yeah. It's so funny too, because we were pissing our pants when he fucking said that. Oh my God. So that's why we're like, okay, that's going to be a title. And then, I was thinking about it. I was like, well, why don't we say that they did know karate? We're like, everyone was like, okay, let's do it.
A little bit darker and more oppressive, and completely from a different headspace than the rest.
Yeah. That song. Yeah, again, playing that live. That's a tough one because that's very that like emotionally. When I'm done singing that tune, I'm winded.
Yeah,
because that's a song where I have to be on. Like if I fuck up a little bit, it'll kill the tune. So that's a song where I really just have, all right, here we go. And it's also a song that I love the chords to it. Just the whole flow of that song, I really, really enjoy. I love that fucking outro. So for me, singing and playing that I love. I really. And again, it's not the most uplifting for me. It is but yeah, it's just one of those tunes where I have to be on, like, because if there's like a crack or anything vocally, I'll fuck it up. So that's a song like when we play it, I'm literally I'm 100% centered in that, and then again, you just kind of let everything else take over and just make sure that you're doing it, 100% justice.
Yeah. And the last song, which is right now my absolute favorite song of your entire catalog, Midnight Express. I think it feels lonely in a beautiful way, and I thought when I was writing down some topics for tonight, I must ask Marc, what were you chasing emotionally with that song?
Yeah, so that one is basically go fuck yourself. It really is. That song is just about me having to listen to what someone telling me what a piece of shit I am in other people's eyes. That's why I wanted that wow. That's why it's like turn me loose, let me go. But that I wanted those verses to be airy, and I wanted to be able to tell that story. Like, okay, you're gonna listen to these phonies. Fuck you. You know what I mean? You're gonna have these people, that don't even know me, supposedly saying what a piece of shit I am. I wanted to do it in a way, though, that came across, where I sang it in a manner, it's kind of go fuck yourself to all those people. Obviously, a few, obviously, it's written for, but I wanted it to be able to let the lyrics float over that verse. And then when it comes to that fucking heavy chorus, I wanted to keep it simple. You know, I wanted literally just, okay, you fucking stop bothering me, right? Just turn me loose. Like, you know, just send me on my way. Let me fucking go. I want nothing to do, but you're still coming back and breaking my balls. So I wanted that to be a yin and a yang. I wanted, you know, to be able to breathe, to have more of a mercurial, and then, you know, I wanted that chorus to fucking just literally, yeah. I wanted it to like come, just fucking swing. And again, you know, Doug and I played that together. That, you know, I came down, it was just him and I was like, okay, what do you think about this? And yeah, and then Seth was the one who was like, how about we speed this up at the end? It's like, yeah. And I really want, you know, that midsection, you know, because I do love the Almonds and Thin Lizzy and shit. That's why I wanted to come up with that really nice harmony part. Bing, bum, 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 bum. And, you know, so I again, I wanted it to be mercurial. I wanted it to be, I'll fucking smash your face in. And then I wanted, you know, some sexiness, you know, with the guitar tonality and things like that. So I'm glad you brought that up, because, yeah, that one again, that was a, you know, when I was singing that, it was like, you know, just fucking, I felt like Reverend Dimsdale, right? I'm like flogging myself, you know. So I wanted, and, you know, the band wanted, there's a really nice heaviness with that. But there's a sense of, you know, breathiness where it lets really the vocal kind of do its own thing.
Yeah.
And again, you know, I was incredibly happy about that.
Yeah, it's like the Mike Tyson knockout punch.
Yeah.
And you're standing up on 10 and you want to listen to it again and get punched in the face.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, for me, I remember just being like, oh, fuck, man, how the fuck am I going to sing this one live? You know what I mean? But again, after coming to grips with it and accepting all that, I can't, you know, I'm so excited to see the reaction, you know, when we play it in front of people.
Yeah. And Gozu has always balanced huge riffs with melody. And are you chasing a feeling when writing, or are you still chasing the riff?
For me, I think it's more of a feeling. You know, Doug, just from him being him, you know, he riffs, you know, just come. I just think for him, it's intrinsic. You know, when I come up with riffs and stuff, it's more feeling, it's more kind of time. Again, just because I don't have any of that background. So I think that's a great thing about he and I. We write so differently, but when it comes together, it makes it's a delicious sandwich.
Yeah.
You know.
And what makes a riff survive the internal Gozu filter?
Sure. You know what it is, man? It literally, you know, it doesn't matter who writes a riff. You look around and you could automatically see people vibing. Like, you know, I'll look over at Joe and he's just, you know, he's doing his thing, and Seth would be like, you know, people just getting off. That's when you know. Like, if people are just kind of, you're just fucking strumming, you're like, this is not going to work. So, but, you know, Doug and I also, though, because we send so much shit back to each other, we're like, okay, I love that, but what if instead we're doing this repeatedly? What if the second and fourth time, instead of putting hand on the 8th, we start on the 10th? So it's even things like that. Like, you wouldn't think that makes a difference, but it totally does. Because then, you know, instead of you're constantly going like this, then, you know, one like that, then one like that. So, you know what I mean? Your mind is thinking, you know, your hands are. So the riffs, we always want them to be chunky, but they have to make sense, you know. They have to take you somewhere sonically, and really, you know, it's kind of like a magic carpet, right? You want to get on that summit and you want to go as far as you possibly can. So every riff, that's written is written, with a means. It's not just to fucking, hit your, hit each string. So they're all, thought out. And the best ones that we write, just they're ones like, oh, what do you think about this? Ba-da-ba-bum. So, it's always the ones that just let it go from your mind, your fingers to the fretboard. That's when you're like, here, okay, all done. Here we go. Can you put lyrics to this? You're like, all right. So, yeah. And again, it's also having that trust in each other to be like, what do you got? And be like, oh, this is fucking great. Like, okay, thank you. So again, doesn't matter who writes what, because it's always the four of us being like, okay, what if we do it like this? Or can we slow that down? Or maybe, so, it's always a team decision. It's never, there's no dictator in Gozu.
Yeah. And tomorrow the album 6 is out.
Yep.
Do you hope people would feel when the album ends?
I hope it's been a journey for them, really. I hope that, wherever they are, if they're in their car, right, they're driving, it might be like a 30 mile per hour zone. Maybe you're going 70. Maybe, it hits you in a way where you're not on your own island, right? I just want people to take it all in and just get off on listening to it. And really I want them to enjoy it. Obviously you want them to feel something, but my biggest hope is that people put this album on and be like, holy, I got to listen to this fucker again. And I got to listen to it again. And to kind of delve into, what are the guts of it, right? What are the, if that happens, then we did our job. Again, if more, the more people like it, that's spectacular. We know not everyone's going to dig it. Anyone who doesn't think that, you're kind of wacky. So we just want people that love it to love it, and then to share it with people that they think might. It's really that simple. You know what I mean? We just want it to move you, to make you feel something. And if you come see us live, if you love it, like literally just tap me on the shoulder, tap Doug or Joe, and just be like, hey, I just want to talk about the album. That's fucking great. Like, thank you. Because again, it's why we play, right? We're not playing because it's paying for anything. We're doing it because it's something we have to do, right? It's in us. We got to get it out. And again, if one person hears this and is like, okay, I'm not alone, then I'll be a happy guy, literally.
And if people mention the album years from now, what do you hope they say about it?
I hope that they say, it stands the test of time. Like, this is an album. It doesn't matter if it's 2026 or 2046. You can still get down to it. Because I think unless robots start to take over and shit like that, excuse me, my hope is that, because of the music and because of, the lyrics, it'll hit a nerve. It doesn't matter if you're 10 years old or if you're fucking 110 years old. It's definitely written from the soul, for the soul. And that's how I really kind of think of, when I'm writing lyrics and things like that. So, because if not, it's fake, right? Like, so yeah. And I've always, Doug and I have this discussion. This definitely goes as a band, because, we obviously, we want it to move people. So yeah, everything is literally from, guitars, from drums to it's definitely, written, from here, to hopefully make an impact, on the soul. And again, if we could do that, I'll be the happiest dude ever.
Yeah. And one final question.
Yes.
If another band would like to cover one of the songs on Six,
Sure.
which band and why?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. Christ. Man, this might sound completely out of left field, but I would love like fucking like Duran Duran doing like Corvette Summer or They Did No Karate. I'm such a big fan of Don't Save a Prayer for Me Now. I'm a huge Duran Duran fan.
Yeah.
Again, that came out, I had those albums. I still listen to that shit. Especially, when I'm writing and such. But yeah, I would love like Duran Duran to cover They Did No Karate. I think that'd be amazing. Or Depeche Mode. Jeez, I'm crook, excuse me. Like Depeche Mode covering, I would say, like Killer Khan would be kind of great. Mm-hmm. If they did it in like a Never Let Me Down Again kind of vein. Mm-hmm. I would love that. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Yeah, that's probably, yeah. So either Duran Duran doing that or Depeche Mode doing that. That would make me quite happy.
Epic choices.
Well, you got to go big, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simon Le Bon, fucking wake up, do something.
Yeah, come on, Simon. Come on. And I think Taylor is one of the best players. Man, talk about a fucking funky dude, man. Yeah. And all the shit they did with Nile Rodgers and, like Notorious, talk about sexy, man. So, yeah, and again, that music, was so prevalent, when I was growing up. But I was, that was just like a little piece of the pie. I was lucky growing up so close to Canada. I would hear all that. There was Queen's Radio from Kingston, Ontario, and they would have these shows, and that's where I first heard like Nick Kershaw, like Social Distortion, all the new wave shit, Haircut 100, Berlin, bands like that. Early Duran Duran before, like more like Girls on Film, that sort of thing. So I was lucky enough, at a young age to hear that, especially like all that early Depeche Mode shit, and like early Police, all that stuff. So, excuse me. So for me, those bands will always have such a lasting like imprint in my life. So yeah, if any of those bands want to cover a tune, I'm giving you my blessing. Right?
Okay, with that said, I say very much thank you to you,
thank you.
Marc. It was an epic conversation, a really emotional and nice to hear you talk about the things that brought life to the epic album 6 of Gozu. I think everyone should look this album up. And for me, during 2026, it stands besides Neurosis, new album, and Corrosion of Conformity as the best album so far.
Oh wow, thank you. I mean, that's pretty delicious partnership. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate that.